Tracking rain and snow next week, the latest timing and totals. I'm ABC 10 Chief Meteorologist Monica Woods, and things are scaling back from what we were seeing just a couple days ago. Still a weather impact alert for next week, with the impact being rain, snow, and cooler weather in the forecast. So prepare for those changes. We've had a stretch of record-setting heat. Now we need to be ready for some slick roads and also drag out those umbrellas. Likely just going to have to use them intermittently, but again, big shift from what we've been seeing. I want to hit on for just a second here the record March that we've seen so far. We still have a couple more days that we could add a couple of degrees to these numbers, as well as a couple more days on the month of March. But consecutive daily record highs, we hit 10. That stretch is now over. Now, that's not just a record for March. That is a record for any month in the entire year of hitting 10 consecutive days with record highs. The last time we did that, many of us will remember that Labor Day weekend in 2022 when we had 5 days of 100+ degree heat. So these records were in the 80s. It didn't feel quite so oppressive, but it just kind of sets the stage that this is a new normal. That is just insane that we've doubled the amount of days that we hit those record highs consecutively. March is going to end up likely as the warmest with an average temperature for this year at 63.6. Again, we have 5 more days left in the month, so we're going to have to continue to calculate that number. Now, if we were just to take that number, 63.6 degrees, that would also rank in the top 5 warmest of all Aprils. So this was unprecedented warmth in California and Sacramento for March 2026. We also hit the most amount of 80+ degree temperatures in the month, 11 days, but we're counting. We are forecasting more 80+ degree temperatures in the month of March before we hit those changes coming our way next week. And that's really why we're calling for this weather impact alert, because what we're seeing in the rearview mirror is going to be much different than what we see ahead for next week. Here's a look at that stretch, and you can see each day that is in the red going to be the tide or daily high temperature record that we set. Wednesday, Thursday, we broke that streak, but we still continue to rack up the amount of days in the 80s for this month of March. 78, though, on Thursday broke that streak as well. Those warming conditions also leading to our river temperatures that are going to be quite cold because of snow melt coming down the hill. We've been seeing highs in the 60s, 70s, 80s in the high country. We had a decent amount of snow this year. Nothing to write home about, but that did melt quite quickly, and so it's sending all that water down the hill. Temperatures for many of our area waterways in the 50s and 60s. That's certainly enough to take your breath away. You can lose control of your limbs, and unfortunately that can quickly lead to hypothermia. Now, in the Sierra and foothills, we've got those river temperatures in the 40s to right around 45 degrees, 48 degrees for Lake Tahoe water temperature. The reason that I mentioned this, we still have those 80+ degree temperatures this weekend. So if you're doing anything around bodies of water, particularly our rivers, they are cold, fast, and high. Certainly something to be aware of this weekend. Our Sierra snow water equivalent, it is pretty much all but done for the northern Sierra. We're only at 7% of what we normally see for that April 1st date. Central Sierra 25, and then for the southern Sierra, we're just shy of 40%. So that's going to put our statewide snowpack at 22% of that April 1st average. We get another snow survey next week, but it's likely not going to be looking very good. The key factor here is snow certainly is part of our water portfolio, and it provides about 1/3 of our water supply. But really, where we store that snow melt and our water is perhaps an even bigger story in what we have to serve us through those dry summer months. And all of our reservoirs are not only above average, but nearly at capacity. So water managers have had a lot of flexibility to kind of play with these atmospheric rivers that have been coming through, more so than what we've seen in the past. So this is going to be an interesting story, not only to watch this year, but in the years to come as well. Recent water years, we've had a couple of big ones here. It wasn't all too great last year, but we had enough snowpack that helped with the snow melt coming down the hill. That's what I'm saying. There's so many factors that go into our water supply. It's not just a one one apple that goes into the complete pie. It's a lot of different ingredients there. We've got groundwater, we've got above ground storage, we've got snowpack, we've got water deliveries from other states. Not that the Colorado River is going to help us out much this year, but it's a lot that goes into California's water supply. Our drought monitor actually improved quite a bit, despite the fact that it ended up being a fairly dry year for snowpack in the Sierra. Total precipitation was decent enough, so that just kind of helps to suppress things like fire danger and keeps that soil moisture a little bit on the higher side. This is where we started off for the water year, and then October, November came in, big months for us, and it pretty much erased all of drought conditions in Southern California. We are starting to see that abnormally dry contour coming back, especially for this year in Northern California, which quite frankly just receives more water in the year than, say, Southern California. So when you look at these numbers and say 12.55 inches for Sacramento, which is a little bit, that's a little bit erroneous, only because our monitoring station was down for a couple of days when we had some pretty decent rain. So that's going to be a little bit shy of what we actually saw. But let's just look at Stockton, 11.89 inches. Compare that to Santa Barbara with 22 plus inches since the beginning of the water year. Southern California, big winner in this water year. Northern California, not so much. Now, the only caveat that I would say to that is our biggest reservoirs are in the northern part of the state. So we would like to see that flipped a little bit, but Southern California really needed some help to suppress that fire danger because last year was devastating. All right, the rainy season is pretty much all but done. The average last day with a half an inch of rain is just around the corner here, April 15th. We're now looking at that average last day with an inch or more behind us. That was March 3rd. The rainy season, as I mentioned, the biggest months are December, January, and February. Those were pretty weak months for us. But what really helped was October and November. And that's what boosted so much of these above average precipitation numbers. So we not only look at 1 month or, a series of storms, we look at the whole water year and really what we get. Because if you look at November alone, that's nearly what we get in December, January, or February, our 3 wettest months. So we just kind of flipped some things around here. It wasn't necessarily in sequential order of what we usually see. But again, with some more flexibility coming from better weather modeling, water managers have a little bit more flexibility to prepare for the dry season. A couple of changes next week. We got 2 weather systems that are going to be brushing us. Those will also help to weaken that high pressure ridge, bringing the record heat. And so we see the cooler weather pattern taking shape by the time we get to Tuesday and Wednesday. They're fairly weak on the scale of what's going to be moving through for us, but at least there's a chance that we're going to be seeing some of these changes. You see the first storm rolling through on Tuesday. Next wave comes through on Wednesday, and that's going to help to at least bring those precipitation totals up ever so slightly, and then it's out of here by Thursday night. So as far as the numbers, they are way down from what we saw 2 days ago. Barely a drop in the bucket here for parts of the valley. We'll get anywhere from about 1/10 of an inch to 1/4 of an inch. And as for Sierra snow, we're not going to be talking feet. We're going to be talking inches, more on the scale of 1 to about 6 inches of snow. And then we're right back at it, likely warmer and likely drier in the forecast for the beginning and middle of April. A couple of April showers, and then we're pretty much done with all of the precipitation. So our numbers here as we look ahead to kick off our weekend, we're going to be in the 60s and 70s for the Tahoe Basin, all the way into the foothills. As we head over towards the coast, our highs are going to be in the 60s and 70s, inland areas in the 80s, and we see those 80s as well throughout the Central Valley. That's why we're saying we're adding a couple more 80s to those numbers for March, which will continue to add on to the record number of 80-degree days. Rain chances increase Tuesday into Wednesday of next week, and then things wind down, and we're getting right back at that heat. As you can see, a couple of warm days in there for this last weekend of a very warm March. Spring break week for a lot of folks next week. A couple of showers Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Drying out, though, for Easter weekend, but back to those warm conditions.